The protagonist of the movie is a 99-year-old man named Alan Carlson. He lives in a remote Swedish village with his pet cat, and the two appear to be very close. Unfortunately, one day, the cat sneaks outside into the snow, where it is attacked and killed by a wolf. Alan is devastated that the only friend in his life is gone. So he starts plotting revenge. He installs some dynamite out in the snow and then baits the fox with some sausages. When the poor animal comes near, it is blown to pieces. This makes the old man happy for a while, but later he is punished for his shenanigans. Alan is transferred to a retirement home where he will have to live the rest of his life. Weeks pass, but Alan doesn't get used to the place. He longs to go outside and feel the fresh air again, to wire up some explosives and evaporate wild animals. But the authorities don't allow him to. Fed up, Alan escapes the retirement home through a window right on his 100th birthday. He doesn't have any relatives to contact or a plan to execute, but he is happy to finally be outside. After wandering the streets for a while, he arrives at a bus station. He then brings out some coins and asks the receptionist to provide him tickets for the next bus. Unfortunately, the money is not enough, so the receptionist suggests he go to a nearby town called Byringe. He explains that it is a desolate place with only one inhabitant in it, but Alan, who is fed up with the retirement home, immediately buys the ticket. Just then, a grumpy-looking gang member named Bolton arrives there, dragging a large suitcase with him. He goes straight inside the bathroom, but the suitcase doesn't fit. So he orders Alan to look after it until he comes back. The old man agrees, but soon after, when his bus arrives, he gets on it with the suitcase. This is how old people commit theft. If you catch them in the act, they just say, What year is it? After a while, the bus departs the station, and Alan starts narrating about his childhood. When he was a young boy, his father invented rubber protection and tried to endorse it to the general public. However, the Swedish monarchy took this as an act of blasphemy and imprisoned him.
This guy's trying to make sex feel bad. Kill him!
Later, they executed him with the help of the firing squad. Alan remembers the day when some officials came to his house and revealed about his father's death. They had brought along some of his belongings, which were mostly explosives and ornaments. Although his mother wept profusely, Alan didn't give a single frick because his father was always absent from his life. Rather, he started experimenting with the explosives and quickly made it his hobby. Some years later, his mother also passed away after a lengthy battle with cancer. Now, Alan was completely alone, with no relatives or friends to support him, just bombs. However, he still didn't care. Alan continued his hobby of blowing things up and gradually got better at it. Ironic that his father's life's mission was to stop anything from blowing. In the present, he arrives at Byringe, which is a small town in the middle of nowhere. When the station manager Julius sees Alan wandering around with a large suitcase, he inquires if everything is fine. The latter explains that he just wants to explore the world as much as he can before passing away. Hearing this, Julius invites him to his house and offers him some food. At this point, the officials at the retirement home have also found out about Alan's disappearance, and a medium-scale search operation led by Detective Aronson has been put in place. Elsewhere, we see that Bolton has beaten up the receptionist, and the two are currently on their way to Byringe. The angry gang member is adamant on retrieving his suitcase, indicating that something very valuable is kept inside it. After a while, he makes it to Byringe and immediately heads inside the only house present there. Bolton finds Julius in the kitchen and starts assaulting him to get information on his suitcase. Fortunately, Alan arrives from behind and knocks him out with a strike to his head. The two oldies then drag his body and lock him inside a freezing unit. In the next scene, Alan and Julius decide to open the suitcase to see what's actually inside it. To their shock, it is loads and loads of cash. Despite their old age, the two are blinded by the money and decide to keep it for themselves. That night, they celebrate their success over drinks. Unfortunately, the next morning, they realize that Bolton is still locked up in the freezer. Julius rushes to check on him, but when he opens the door, the gang member is already dead. This upsets the oldies, as an innocent man passed away due to their negligence. However, for Alan, this is not the first time he has killed someone. Decades back, when he was still a teenager, he accidentally blew up a merchant while testing his new explosives. As a result, he was confined to a mental asylum, where he had to live for 30 years. Moreover, before Alan was released, he was neutered, as the officials believed his offspring would also be a menace to society. Alan wandered around the city until he found a job at a cannon factory. If I can't shoot loads, I may as well shoot shoot balls. There, he met a Spanish revolutionist named Esteban and started learning about politics. As the days passed, they became good friends, and Esteban eventually convinced Alan to join the fight against the dictatorship in Spain. The two traveled to Madrid, where they planned to kill General Franco. However, on the very first day, Esteban got killed because of his talkative nature. This didn't intimidate Alan, though, and he continued doing what he did best, blowing things up. He became a very important part of the revolution and helped his group win several battles. But one day, while he was trying to set off some explosives, he suddenly quit and decided to return to Sweden. On his way back, he stopped a car to ask for a lift, and at the same time, a large explosion took place nearby. To his surprise, the person in the car was none other than General Franco. He regarded Alan a hero for saving his life. So, to return the favor, General Franco held a luxurious party in Alan's honor and even gifted him with an extremely rare pistol.
Unlike you, this doesn't fire blanks.
Back in the present, the oldies transport Bolton's body in a wagon and dump it into a box, which is destined for Djibouti. Meanwhile, the receptionist from earlier goes to the police station and informs Detective Aronson about the old man and Bolton. He also reveals that they are currently in Birinj. Hearing this, the detective immediately sets off for the town. He arrives there shortly after and looks for clues inside the house. When he finds nothing, he goes to a nearby radio station and announces that a 100-year-old man has gone missing. If anyone is able to find out about his whereabouts, they will be rewarded handsomely. Elsewhere, we are introduced to a ferocious-looking guy called Gideon. He is revealed to be the leader of the same gang Bolton used to be a part of. Gideon is currently on house arrest because of a crime he committed recently. Unfortunately for him, the suitcase was supposed to be delivered to one of his clients. Now, he has 24 hours to find it, and if he doesn't, he will be executed. He better get on with it. On the other hand, as Julius and Alan are on their way back home, they have a sudden change of mind and decide to go somewhere else. So, they approach an innocent-looking guy named Benny and ask him for a ride. The latter agrees and asks, "Where do you want me to drop you off?" To which the oldies reply, "Wherever you're going." This slightly confuses Benny, but he doesn't ask anything and starts driving. After a while, they pull over at a gas station to freshen up. Unfortunately, Benny notices Alan's missing posters and confronts him about it. The old man tries to lie his way out of the situation, but to no avail. He's the only guy within a bajillion miles who looks that old. Hence, he reluctantly coughs up the entire truth about how they killed a man and how they have millions in cash. Julius then asks Benny to be a part of their team and drive them around the country. In exchange, he will be given an equal share of the money. Without thinking twice, Benny accepts. Following this, the movie goes into another flashback. Alan sold the pistol given to him by Franco in exchange for a work permit to America. Initially, he worked as a construction worker, but then, using his vast knowledge of explosives, he started mingling with renowned scientists like Oppenheimer. He even helped them solve a crucial problem in the Manhattan Project, the largest nuclear bomb at that time. Soon, Alan became a popular figure in the States, so much so that even the vice president invited him for dinner. Several years later, Alan returned to Sweden. He was considered a hero by many for his contribution to nuclear physics. One day, while he was in a meeting with some Swedish diplomats, he met a Russian scientist named Popov. Because of their shared interest in explosives, they quickly became friends, and Popov invited Alan to come to Russia with him. On his first day in Moscow, Alan had a meeting with Stalin. The latter asked him to reveal everything about the Manhattan Project, but Alan refused. As a result, he was sent to the Gulag, where he met Albert Einstein's timid twin brother Herbert. The two plotted for an entire year and eventually escaped the place by blowing it apart completely. I'm beginning to suspect this movie's not true. In the present, Benny's car runs out of gas, so they are forced to stop at a roadside farm. The owner, Gunilla, offers to provide them with shelter for the night, but only if they pay her a good amount. Hearing this, the trio starts laughing, as money is definitely not a problem for them. After a while, Gunilla introduces them to her pet elephant, which lives in a nearby shed. Days pass, and the three continue living in the house. Gunilla also doesn't order them to leave, because she has finally found some good friends. Unfortunately, one day, a gang member finds their location after spotting Alan nearby. He slowly approaches the residence with a gun in hand, and when everyone is distracted, he grabs Alan from behind. The gang member then threatens the others to bring out his suitcase if they don't want to see the old man dead. Reluctantly, Eventually, Benny heads inside and retrieves the bag. But just as the gang member is about to flee, Gunilla arrives with a weapon of her own. This scares the gang member, and in a state of panic, he slips and falls right under the large elephant. Unfortunately, the poor animal becomes terrified and sits on top of the gang member, killing him instantly. Dumbo just delivered that bum, ho. After the incident, the men finally come clean about the money and offer an equal share to Gunilla as well. In exchange, she will have to help them dispose of the body. Elsewhere, Gadon has become restless because two of his gang members are not responding to his calls. So, with pressure mounting, he decides to break his ankle device and head out to look for the suitcase himself. Once again, the movie goes into a flashback. Alan became an agent for the CIA. Soon he was approached by the Soviet secret intelligence group, the KGB. As both the parties offered him good compensation, Alan became a double agent. His daily routine consisted of leaking the American secret information to the Soviets, and vice versa. However, despite years of being a snitch, he was never caught. Back in the present, the group disposes of the gang member's body and decides to leave the residence as it is not safe anymore. So, Gunilla brings out her truck, which has enough room to adjust the elephant as well. They soon hit the road and proceed to another city, but on the way, Gadon finds them. He stops his car in front of them and attempts to shoot the driver, but this only results in a horrible crash. In the aftermath, Gadon is left seriously injured, so the group tends to his injuries and takes him in the truck. They then resume their journey and head to a nearby airstrip. It turns out that Alan has arranged a getaway airplane for them using one of his past contacts. A few hours later, Gadon finally awakens, but he has no recollection of who he is or how he got there. So, he remains calm and decides to continue traveling with the guys. That evening, they finally arrive at their destination, where they are picked up by Alan's contact. Even the elephant is adjusted inside the airplane, and soon they take off, hoping for a better life. In the final scene, the group arrives in Bali. It turns out that this was Alan's plan all along. Ever since he laid hands on the suitcase, he wanted to spend the rest of his days in the sunny skies of Bali. Benny and Gunilla get engaged, while Gadon leaves his criminal past behind and starts living a good life. As for the elephant, it can now finally roam around the lush forests and golden beaches without being bothered by anyone. Dumbo's getting that sun, for